How are you,
Thanks,
man?
David. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. Really,
Glad
really
to
good.
hear that.
Cool, man. So, as an owner of two creative agencies, and having built so many brands for other companies, what do you think is the key to building a world-class brand nowadays?
Yeah, I think that's a two-part answer. I think it's knowing who you are as a brand and knowing who your user base is and your client base is. And I think these are two things that a lot of brands mess up a little bit. I see that every company knows what their ICP is. They're clear on who they're targeting, but they forget to put that into their messaging, into their branding, into their copy. They basically just lose track of who they're actually talking to. You especially see this with like small brands. They tend to talk to themselves. So the founders try to target the messaging at people that are like them, and very often their target base is not them. They're very different. So that's one. Number two is the knowing yourself part. And it's not just knowing who you are as a brand, so your mission, your vision. It's also actually representing that in all your materials and being consistent with that messaging. So a mistake a lot of brands make is having different messaging in different assets. So like on their website versus in their demos versus in their ads versus in their social media. And the more messages you put out there, the more you confuse your target audience. You really want to have one, right? So I would say, yeah, knowing who you are as a brand and knowing who you're talking to as well.
And so, with one message, do you mean just constantly repeating the same things over and over, kind of like Gary Vaynerchuk? Or can you give us some examples on how to have an aligned message
Yeah,
consistently as a brand?
yeah. So I think both work, both go hand in hand. Of course, you don't want to be like Gary Vee, for example. He's very stuck on always repeating the same. He's a content creator, so of course that's different. And for him, that is part of his brand. And every video kind of needs that same message. I think for a company, it's a little bit different because you can really stick to one general topic or theme. It's just you can't say one thing and then say the complete opposite the next day, right? I mean, of course, you have slogans and things that people remember you by. Just do it. I'm loving it. Like all of these are great and it's great for your brand. But that doesn't mean that you have to also say it in every piece of your marketing or in all your branding. It's really, like you said, just being aligned and knowing what your vision and mission are, and maybe having a few messages that are related around that.
And do you do any, when you onboard a new client, right? You probably go through a certain process to help them identify, their ideal customer persona. Do you have any specific framework for helping founders or brands reconnect with themselves to know what their message should really be?
Yeah, well, very often it is talking to somebody that's outside of their company, and that's kind of where we come in, right? We're like a sounding board that they can like talk and we push back on everything that they say. So a lot of it is just not always being surrounded by only your team or just talking to your founders. Another thing is asking people how they perceive your brand, right? So going directly to your users, directly to your customers, and maybe what you hear from them might not be aligned with what you thought you were putting out. So that's a good way to, one, reconnect with who you said you were as a company, and maybe even realize that you want to change that around a little bit and move in a different direction if you're not happy with what you're hearing back.
And focusing more on the agency as a business, what do you think are the biggest mistakes agency owners make? Maybe it was certain mistakes you made,
Yeah.
that led to you creating a second agency.
Mhm.
Yeah, what are some of those mistakes that agency owners can
Yeah.
avoid?
I mean, there's a lot, and there's a lot I've made. Um, Whether it's timing of your hiring, whether it's not really knowing who your ICP is, that's something I did wrong in the beginning with my first agency, is we were really targeting kind of everybody, which works for some, but it didn't work for us. Having a more clear idea of who our customers is meant that we could provide a lot more value to them because we knew, I don't know, whether it's their industry or maybe it's a startup in like Series A, we have a customer profile that we're very comfortable with, that we know very well. So that would be one thing, is not knowing who you're targeting. Another thing is a lot of people just go into it thinking they're going to be making a lot of money very fast. A lot of agency owners start with freelance work, and they think that as soon as they go into agency work, they'll be able to just delegate everything that they wanted to do, sit back, relax, and make a lot of money. That is not the reality of running an agency, especially in the beginning. It's hard to fill up your pipeline. There's a certain runway that you need before you get started. It's also a lot of skills that are very different from the skills you would use as a freelancer. All of a sudden, you have to manage a team, and not everybody's a good manager. All of a sudden, you're in charge of finances, of legal, of HR. There's all these things that, as a freelancer, you don't have to worry about. So I would say an easy way to get around that mistake is partnering with the right people. And that's what I did with my second agency. My business partner now is very different from me. We have very different skills. We have similar mentality, but our skills lay in very different areas and we complement each other very well. So that's one way of avoiding that mistake.
And would you recommend to focus on a very specific service? Maybe, for example, instead of doing, for example, like some people do a social media management, then I'm going to run your ads and I'm also going to do your website. Do you recommend just focusing on one specific service and doing that extremely well? Maybe it is just focusing on a specific niche and then offering all services around that specifically. Right. What has worked best for you and what do you see working right now in the industry?
So right now we're an end-to-end agency at the moment. We're kind of full service, and we've been like that from the beginning. I do not recommend doing that. I do think that it's better to focus on one service that, like you said, you get really good at, and maybe you become known for providing that service, and from there you can branch out. I would say that is one, easier because you don't have to hire as many people. Two, you can get around the idea of not being able to provide every service by partnering with other agencies. So for example, we partner with a production company and we partner with a development, like a dev partner for websites and for product. We partner with an ad agency. And that way, we in a way can provide this network of agencies that they can work with, where we all work collaboratively to provide all of these services without actually having to be good at it ourselves.
100%. And so here, wrapping up, love for you to quickly introduce yourself and then also share a little bit about, what's been the biggest value from joining Karisma or Karisma Select in this case. What was it that made you want to join? And this can be an anecdote, a story highlight, or maybe, a specific business lesson that you had along the way, or maybe even related to your personal growth as well.
Hey, I'm Borys. I'm a creative director and founder of Bong, a boutique branding and creative agency based here in Barcelona. I would say the main positive outcome I got out of joining Karisma is just the network of people. And I'm not saying this purely for business, but just meeting really incredible, passionate people that all live here and that are all interested in meeting other people, sharing their life with you and sharing their business stories with you. I came out of this with buddies that I play paddle with, people that I have long nights talking about work with, people that I just grab drinks with. It's really just an incredibly curated community. And
for me, you're like a clear success story, because you arrived here in Barcelona, I don't know how long ago.
Not long.
And you were just one of these people that just consistently showed up, with good vibes, optimism, always a desire to also help others. And I think that shows very quickly, you're someone who now, it feels like you've been part of Karisma for ages, I think the members, even the team, we all love you, we appreciate you. And yeah, I feel like at the same time, we've also built a very nice friendship, which I'm sure is going to last. And yeah, thank you so much for everything. It's been an absolute pleasure sharing this journey with you, man.
Thank you.
Legend.